Hey guys, so today we're doing a review of the BenQ GR10 dock for your Steam Deck, your Rogue Ally, all sorts of stuff. But before we start the video, my submit to Olympics 2024's breakdance competition. As it goes without saying, the product has been sent for review. All opinions are my own, and they get to see the video at the same time as everybody else. And so we have spent a wonderful time in Iceland. I will miss it dearly. And we have since moved and are now in England. We have seen a lot of amazing things. Big Ben, Windsor Castle, Thames River, a bunch of things really. It's an awesome place to be in. All right, so let's continue. First of all, let's go over the specs of the device. Of course, you have an aluminum shell and some parts are plastic, and everywhere inside has a rubber anti-slip sticker. Now, one thing to keep in mind, they don't provide anything pertaining to power, so you have to bring your own. You have a HDMI 2.1 in the back, two USB-As that supports up to 10 gigabit bitrate, as well as a 2.5 gigabit Ethernet cable as well. A 10 gigabit USB-C off to the side that you can use to power your device. It'll give you up to 7.5 watt, whereas the USB-As will give you up to 4.5. Your PD in that supports up to 100 watt in, and your USB-C out that will plug to your device for video support, audio support, as well as Ethernet, everything that you can use on this hub/dock. Now, underneath you also have the cable that can be tucked on the case itself, and it also comes with a magnetic 90-degree connector, so if you need an angle to plug to your device, it comes bundled. And then last but not least, you do have this flip stand here that you can tuck in and out based off of if you want to use it as a hub or if you want to use it as a dock. You can do both. It is very compact, very easy to travel. You do have very minimalistic branding on the device itself. Overall, I like the look, I like the feel, and it's been thrown in my bag a couple of times already. It doesn't scuff all that much. There's a little bit of a mark on the aluminum, but I can just brush it off and it goes away, so I don't think it was the aluminum itself, but probably something else that left a mark on it. It supports up to one display, which will be used through the HDMI 2.1. The USB that you have off to the side will not be enough to supply another screen, and of course the one that you have, the main one that goes into your device, will be used to take the signal off of. Now, when it comes to dimensions and weight, I'll put them on the screen. And one thing very important is the slot. I would say it's about an inch on top, but at the bottom it gets a lot smaller, 2/3 of an inch, give or take. I find it's a little small. I wish they would have had probably a system where you could have like pulled it out a little bit. I think that would have absolutely made this thing more versatile. Because when it comes to the Rogue Ally X, which is the device that I have with me to test, as well as other devices as well, the Ally X actually does not fit very well. I mean, it will be able to be put inside, but it will tilt forward, which makes no sense. So when using it with the Rogue Ally, I actually close it and sit the Rogue Ally in a separate stand that I have brought with me during my travels. I have benchmarked it at home to get some of the screenshots I will be using today to talk about performance when transferring games from my Steam library on my main PC to other devices, which I did a great deal when bringing games to the Rogue Ally X, knowing that I was going to travel with it, and I used this dock to do that, and the speed was the best I've seen so far. So I would say without a doubt that it performs better, at least in my experience, than other docks that I've used, which none of them were HDMI 2.1 and had a 2.5 gigabit per second bandwidth. As far as everything else, the two USB-As, the USB-C, you know, everything works well. HDMI is indeed 2.1, and this is something that I would not put on BenQ at all. There are HDCP discrepancies, but quite frankly, as far as I'm concerned, this is something I have seen on every device, be it LG, be it Samsung, be it Elgato, be it BenQ. It doesn't matter. That's why I don't blame it on the manufacturers. If you don't know, it's been a thing with HDMI 2.1 since the very beginning, be it bandwidth, be it security. There's always something going with HDCP. Unfortunately, that one is not the exception here. So in terms of what you have to utilize will greatly impact the performance you might see when looking at HDMI 2.1. When running this device, if you're trying to use this for a Switch OG or a Switch OLED, it will not work. But for everything else that I've had to test with, be it iOS, be it Android, be it Linux, Windows, everything worked. It goes without saying, you do have 4K 120 hertz. But one thing that is also very important, and I would say that this is where I ran into a few more issues, is VRR. So I had it working at 4K 120 VRR with HDR on, but it's the device with which it worked and the cables that I used. Even though the cable said HDMI 2.1 supported, because it is very common nowadays that those cables need to have an ED-ID to be able to support the format that you're trying to cast with. So there was also the device that I was using. So my point is, for example, on my LG TV using the exact same cable, exact same dock in the Steam Deck, VRR, HDR, 4K 120 was supported. But when going to another monitor that supported all those features, it didn't work, again using the same cable. And that's what I mean by HDCP issues. It's a handshake, and sometimes it's a question of just unplugging and plugging it back. But sometimes it's a question of something along the way doesn't work in terms of compatibility, and that is HDCP causing a handshake issue. So you might run into these issues, and again, I know I'm repeating myself, but I couldn't stress this enough. This is not on BenQ, not even a little bit. I was able to hit 1440p at 240 hertz. Again, was it an HDCP issue? But I was not able to hit 1440p 360 hertz. Logically speaking, it shouldn't be a limitation when it comes to HDMI 2.1. One thing I was not able to confirm is if this works fine with DSC, which is display stream compression, if I recall, or otherwise I'll just put it on screen, which allows the bandwidth to be compressed up to 3 times, which means that if you have a signal that is, for example, 96 gigabit per second, you can compress it to approximately 32 gigabit per second. Seeing as this supports up to 40, this should work just fine. Now, I haven't measured exactly what the bandwidth size is for 1440p 360 hertz, but I can tell you, at least in my testing, using different cables and different devices, I could not hit it once. Now, I guarantee that it wasn't a problem with the device itself, because using USB-C to HDMI, it worked fine. So it's really something to do with either HDCP or the dock. I did reach out to BenQ to let them know. They did tell me that they tested it on their end and that it was working. So it could, again, very well be a handshake situation. Quite frankly, that's what I would expect. Let's talk power, because this is another very important thing. A lot of people will probably wonder. So I'm actually reshooting this entire section of this video because originally when using the dock with the Rogue Ally X, I was not able to get the turbo 30 watt. As it turns out, it seems that the dock itself is kind of finicky with the voltage and amperage that it supports, because when plugged to the wall outlet that I'm using with me, it doesn't work. I mean, it does work if I plug it straight to the Rogue Ally X, but it doesn't if I supply power to the dock and then from the dock to the Rogue Ally X. Whereas if I use my Anchor battery, which is what my dock is currently plugged with, I'm seeing the biggest amount of juice I've seen so far being thrown to the Rogue Ally X. So my conclusion can only be that the dock itself does not support a lot of different voltage and amperage configurations. And so that is why we're seeing the turbo being the Ally X being supplied enough juice to be able to do turbo 30 watt. It does it just fine right now. But again, only through my Anchor bank, not through the wall outlet, whereas the wall outlet straight to the Ally X works just fine. So yeah, just something I thought important to point out. And so that leads me to pretty much what is the end of this review, what I recommend. Now, it does depend on the device that you're using. If you're using anything from the boutique store, GPD, INEO, 1X Player, most, to not say every time with these devices, you have more than one USB-C. You have one to power your device, and from the other one, you can just use a USB-C to HDMI, which will ultimately give you better results and probably better reliancy in terms of HDCP, because it's using a different protocol. Whereas if you are using this in your household or maybe for work, I think this is a fantastic, dare I say, phenomenal hub. And for that specific reason, I love this device. Now, to be fair, I will definitely use it as a dock, and I think it will make that much more sense at home where I have TVs that supports the 2.1 HDMI protocol. The ones I find in hotels do not, obviously, that's to be expected. But at home, you know, I have the TVs, I have the monitors that supports this. So it'll make sense when I'll be there. To travel, not really, despite the fact that it's super compact. I do think it is a great companion to bring along if you travel and you already have it for other purposes. Which brings me to the hub aspect. You don't need to power this dock to be able to use it as a hub. So if you're trying to use it, for example, I use it with my wireless mouse, I use it with a wireless keyboard, and when using it on my iPad, I use it for Samsung Shield hard drive, as well as my USB stick that is also an SSD. So to use both at the same time, I need something like that. Without a hub, it's just not possible. And the transfer rate between each of the plug device is just absolutely awesome. It took me about, I want to say 20 seconds to transfer 10 gigabytes. So the hub capabilities completely shattered my expectations. And again, all of this is done without supplying power, which means that whatever device it's plugged on, so in this case was the iPad, it was getting all the juice it needed to operate to max capacity. This is something that I don't know if they are going to market that device as such. To be fair, it's not cheap. I find that it gives it another layer, another purpose, because it is not every dock that you're going to be able to use as a hub. And the fact that this one is so compact, so good, it works with Samsung DeX, it works with Stage Manager on the iPad, it works with an iPhone, it works with any handheld PCs. I've tested it on the Steam Deck. So it's extremely versatile. It's very small, very easy to put in a pocket or in a bag, and it also works as a great hub. For all these reasons, do I think it is a great device? Absolutely. For home use, I am for sure, like, this is one of those products that was sent to me that I will be using on a daily. Is it nice to have, and is it easy to tug in a bag? Absolutely. That sums it up. I hope this was insightful. It should be on sale on August 13, which is when this video should be released, if not the next day most likely. And so if you have any questions, you know how to hit me. Make sure to hit that comment box. And as always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.